Life is sweet. Let it sweep you off your feet.
Hi, this is Allie and Find Your Joy. Do remember to like and subscribe. And welcome to the 101st, 101st episode 101. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about having um, the experience of what's been going on the last 100 episodes and what that's been like, and a big thank you to all the people who have come and shared their stories and their experience, strength, and hope with us, and shared about how they found their joy. It's been a real honor to hear their stories and to share them with you. And it's been quite the ride. Just lots to learn about. Lots to learn about when doing a podcast and meeting all these people. It's been really an awesome time, and I've appreciated it and enjoyed it. And going forward, some of the things that I would like to do is have more where there's multiple guests on at once, and we'll be talking about different things and having actual, conversations and maybe some uh, topics that will come up that not everyone has the same view on, and there'll be some really respectful and interesting dialogue, I hope. So that's one of the things that I'm hoping to move into this year, and have had some people show interest. So we will see where that goes. For today I want to talk about the course that I have that will be coming up in January, the middle to end of January. The date isn't secured yet, but that's what we're looking at. The course is called When I Look at You, I See. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about it and maybe my history, how it all came. Quite a few years ago, I was asked to to develop a course on the prophetic. So in churchanese, in Christendom, prophetic is what maybe outside of church people would call second sight or intuition or empath, even psychic. And so I was involved. I was the team leader for that in a few different churches and did that for many years. And I developed a course and taught on it, really about learning how to listen to that still small voice. And now for some people, that's completely about listening to God. And for some people, there's a voice that they haven't really determined what that is. For some people, it's very clear that it's an intuition and an inner voice that's completely comes from themselves, but outside energetically. So there's many ways that people can look at it, and I'm not so interested really on where, as long as it comes from a place of love, I'm not as concerned with how someone defines where they hear it from. And that could be, that's interesting. I said that, and right away I'm thinking, now I know there's some people that'll be maybe disturbed by that statement, but I'm not, because I believe that love is what I want for us to be guided by. And if I'm teaching on it or sharing with it or leading a group on it, what mostly matters to me is it a person that I'm working with, that their connection, what they are connecting with and what they want to guide them is a love force. So I'm satisfied with that. I can tell you that in my own journey, and I know I've talked about this before, in my own journey, ever since I was a very small child, I had many experiences, and I would have senses of what was happening or what was happening for another person, and I I didn't always understand that fully, and sometimes I thought if I felt it, it was just ultimate. It just was, and there wasn't anything to discuss about that. And if someone said they saw it differently, I just saw them as being wrong when I was younger. I must admit that that's kind of where I came from. Because when we're a person, and let's be clear here, I believe we're all people of intuition. We're all people who sense things. All of us are empaths. All of us are intuitives. And some people have developed that further, and some people listen to that more. But I don't think that there's some of us that just have it and the rest of you don't. That's not my belief in the slightest. I believe that this small, still voice speaks to all of us. I believe that energy that's around us and that we are feeling from whatever that might be. We walk into a room and we feel an energy from another person, or we get a vibe from them, or, sometimes it's a good vibe, sometimes not so good of a vibe. I would say that most of us, probably all of us, I would think, have that to some degree or the other. And it's whether or not we trust it and how much we've developed it and understood it. And then probably the most important thing is what to do with it. So I've just received a message, whatever that might be, or I've felt a vibe, or that person's energy affects me a certain way or impacts me a certain way. So that's information that's been taken in. And now what am I going to do with that? So the course is a lot about that. The course is about understanding where the messages come from, where the feeling, the vibe, the energy, where does that all come from? I don't define that. I want to be really clear. Anything that I'm teaching about, I saw a brilliant guy. I took a couple of courses from him. Jim McNeish. He lives in Edinburgh, Scotland. But I took a few courses from him, I don't know, 30 years ago now, probably. Deeper Magic and another one. But I loved one thing that he shared. He said, what I'm going to talk to you about is my opinion, my experience, and my opinion. So I'm going to start with that. I'll borrow that from Jim McNeish because I really appreciated that about him. And so what I'm going to teach you about is my opinion. I'm not the one who gets to say everything is right and or whatever is wrong. I'm going to tell you my opinion on how to do this. I'm going to tell you my opinion and share my experience about what I've learned from many different sources, inside and outside of church, and I've taken courses and lots of courses, and I've taught courses, and I've done all these things. But what I'm going to be teaching you about is my opinion and my experience. And I want to be clear about that because I think if anyone comes to you and tells you that they have the truth about all of these things, then we might want to be cautious about that. Because anyone that's that sure that they have the truth and the only truth, and whatever they're picking up from someone, that's just 100% gospel, I'm going to suggest to you, again, my opinion, that we need to be very cautious about that because, we see in part and we know in part. And even some of my most strongest feelings, I didn't understand the full picture. And so that's what I'm going to teach about too, is that we get a vibe, we get a feeling, we get a sense, and let's just take some time to process that. And maybe what we thought was exactly what happened, and that's fine. But it would only be ego that needs us to be right. Only ego needs us to be the authority on something. So yeah, I'm going to share my experience and my opinions. And I hope that through that, we will all learn together. So some of the things that I talk about are, it starts out with, look at that, my glasses again. I live in hot flash land, is foundations of intuition and empathy. And that's just, what do we see? What do we sense? Where does that come from? Understanding it, understanding the science as well as the spiritual aspect of intuition and empathy and empathicness. Empathic abilities. Identifying different moments in our lives when we've had these things, and how did that turn out for us, and what have we learned from it, and how do we develop it even more. The other part of it is really discovering the beauty in others. When we are people who see things in other people? How do we shift our perspective beyond just what we see on the surface into developing it into where we understand that empathic abilities, intuition, second sight, all of these are sacred listenings. And that's what I want to talk about a lot. Is this is sacred? If we have just been shared, if it's been somehow given to us, whether that's on our own, by the universe, by God, by energetically, however this is a sacred, intimate thing that we've just been given. It's a secret has been whispered to us. What do we do with that? Do we blurt that out? Do we use that to judge and criticize another person? What do we do with that sacred listening? And how do I treat anything that's sacred? I treat it in such a manner that I understand that it has to be treated and processed in love. So that's the other part of that. And we learn about journaling and writing that down and finding out ways of processing it, and then looking back over time to see what exactly did I learn in all that? And did I develop more? And if I asked more questions rather than making statements, what comes out of that? What am I learning about that? How do I develop it? The other part is learning getting the understanding of how much speaking blessings and encouragements, how much that matters. It's interesting because I'm going to say that in my past life, and I mean in this life, when I was a younger person and when I was a more wounded person before I had a lot of healing, and healing is an ever-evolving process, of course. When I would see things, often that would tell me that I would sense that I needed to protect myself from a person, or I might judge them. When I would see something that was maybe a struggle in their life. And what I understand now was what I was given an opportunity to do was to bless that person, to encourage them in that area, not to judge them in it. If they were struggling with something and I was shown that intimate, whispered that secret about them, that it was to encourage them, to show them love, to find ways to lift them up, not to drag them down. So the other part of it is, while we're developing our intuitive abilities, is to understand exactly how it works, why it works, what do I do with it, and then cultivating kindness in our communication. It's interesting lately, I don't know, in the last couple of years, people have been speaking out to me and on Facebook and in person and whatever, saying things to me like, you're just so kind and you're so uplifting and you're always doing these things. And I think, yeah, well, how lovely of you to say that. Thank you. Also, I believe I was born for that. I was born for this course. I was created to teach this course. I believe that. That's my opinion. But why? Because I was a person who was healed of being a very judgmental, angry person. And the turnaround in my life was that I began to understand the importance of speaking out kindness and blessings and inspiration and encouragement, and how that can shift anything. That can take a person from a very dark place to being a person that is thriving and living out all that they were created for. And so part of this is cultivating kindness in our communication, finding ways to look for the best in people, to call that to life in them, and living a life of healing and wholesomeness. Garbage in, garbage out. And so how do I live a life that is focused on speaking kindness, looking for the best in others? And that doesn't mean at all that I ignore something that might be dangerous, ignore something that might be unhealthy. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is our average interactions with others, And when we see people, and maybe we see an area that they struggle in, that we call to life the opposite. If I see in a person that they are riddled with anxiety, let's just say, what do I know that love wants for that person? What can I know without a doubt in my mind? What does love want for that person? Let's think about that. Well, what might love want for a person that struggles with anxiety? Might love want me to say, "You're so anxious. Why are you so anxious? How can we get you over your anxiety?" That probably isn't how love would conduct themselves. Whether we believe in an energetic force, a God, whatever, what does love want for that person? Well, love wants for them to be living their full life. Love wants them to be free of fear. Love wants them to walk in their bravery and their courage that they were born with, that maybe they've lost right now. But I can tell you for sure that if someone makes their way to either have an appointment with me online or to come into my studio and meet with me, they have already shown enormous courage. And I want to make sure I acknowledge that, speak that out to them and over them, call that to life in them. So that's part of what learning kind communication is about. Kind communication is about when we see that there's an issue that needs to be addressed, that we go for it straight on in kindness and in love. And if we know something intuitively, we remember that we've been given information that was not necessarily given up from that person themselves. And we conduct ourselves accordingly. We respect that. We respect that this isn't something that they chose to tell us or to share with us. And then so we honor that. We honor that in them. So that's a little bit of what the course is about. I'm getting all excited. So when we're doing that, this is what this is all about. When I look at UIC, is developing our intuition and our sensitivity to energy around us, energy in each other. We develop that. And as we're developing it, we learn how to walk it out with grace, with kindness, with love, with honor, with respect. I'm thinking, if ever there was a time that people could learn to speak out kindness, this would be a great time, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it just be a great time if we could start to be healed of broken relationships? We talk about reconciliation. True reconciliation comes with a lot of truth and a lot of love and kindness and forgiveness and honor and respect. And that, well, that is something that I would like to invite you to. So very soon, it's already up on my website a little bit about when I look at UIC. It'll be coming around the 15th or the 22nd. I'm sort of thinking those are the dates. I will offer in person a weekly course. It's going to be a 6-week course. I've decided to take it down from an 8-week course to a 6-week course. And I will do online and in person if there's if it looks like there's enough in-town interest to do that. But you are invited. And I do hope that I see you there and that we get to share with each other and grow and learn in this, because this is one of the ways that I found my joy, and I want to share that with you. So this is Allie, and find your joy, and do like and subscribe. And I look forward to us getting together and sharing and learning more about this together. Take good care. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you found a piece of your joy in this episode, I would love to hear about what came up for you so that we can continue to grow the impact of this show. Thanks again. See you soon. And remember, find your joy.